What's going on, everybody? I'm just your typical average Canadian nerd here to react to your typical average American guy here to react to your typical average Canadian American border. Yeah, he's gonna learn a little bit about something on our border today. I hope. We're not sure if he's actually learning anything according to his quizzes, but we're going to keep on doing this because I just have some additional thoughts and input and context to add to these videos. Thank you for joining me, and we'll just go through the intro before we get to the video.
Science, spirit, life, Nerd Pope King.
Alright, thank you for bearing with me here, and let's get this image out of the way, and we'll dive right in to this Ttyyler Bucket video.
What's going on, everyone? I'm just a typical American guy here today, not just to entertain, but to react and learn about Canada and the United States bizarre border. That's the name of this video anyway. I don't know what makes the border bizarre, necessarily.
Well, you should have learned that in one of your more recent videos before this one, the part where it's the largest undefended border in the world. That's pretty strange, right?
When Americans think about the US-Canadian border, they really don't think much of anything unusual about it, to be perfectly honest.
No.
We're way more wrapped up and concerned with the US-Mexico border, it seems. That's always being talked about and debated and all sorts of stuff. But I think maybe the reason the US-Canadian border is just kind of not talked about is because it's so chill. It's, for lack of a better word.
Yeah, that's no lie, because there are parts of our border where it's literally just a park. You can walk into the park from America, walk out of the park, you're in Canada, nobody checks a passport, nobody cares.
It's, there's no controversy, you know, everything's on good terms, it works well. Americans are perfectly happy with Canadians coming into America, and hopefully Canadians are cool with Americans traveling into Canada. But that's just my limited understanding of the situation. Maybe this video can enlighten me a little bit on what would make this border bizarre. I don't know if we're talking about politically or geographically. I don't really even know, in all honesty, just the fact that it would just be above our northern states. I'm not too familiar with Canada's territory in that area, so I don't even...
Yeah, it is bizarre politically and geographically. There's no lie, so we'll find out what he learns.
I have a great visual idea in my mind of what it all looks like, so I have a lot to learn about this, so maybe this can help me.
I have a couple of ideas in my mind of what it looks like, you know? At one point, it's a road. At one point, it's forest. In some point, it's tree line, grass, tree line. At one point, it's a park. At one point, it's like a mountain. It's just geography, really.
Canada and the United States share the longest, straightest, possibly boringest border in the world.
I didn't know that. Already off the bat. At least I know what I don't know, kind of. But it makes sense. Look at it. The longest continuous border of any two nations on the planet. That's kind of cool.
Yeah, very true. Because think of the other large nations. We've got China and we've got Russia. We've got U.S. and Canada, okay? U.S. and Canada, we share a border. Russia and China share part of the border, but other parts of the border of China and Russia touch many other nations. So, yeah, the longest continuous border. It's pretty cool.
But look closer and there's plenty of bizarreness to be found. While these sister nations get along fairly well, they both want to make it really clear whose side of the continent is whose, and they've done this by carving a 20-foot wide space along the border.
What?
Yes.
What?
Yes.
Is this real?
Yes.
Is this true?
Yes, and this is so that we can see when something crosses over the border. We're not, like, patrolling, but there are cameras, and we're like, oh, those deer are moving past.
Carving Is this an actual photo of it?
Yes.
Like, we're actually physically getting, like, tractors out here and carving a physical, visual 20-foot representation of the border?
It is true.
That's very interesting. I guess, hopefully, America and Canada are both mutually cool about this is how it's gonna work, I guess.
We agreed on it, and we like it.
All 5,500 miles of it. With
Right. What? How are we? Whoa, look at this photo.
Yeah, a lot of borders are just imaginary lines drawn on a map. We took this seriously and made real lines drawn on the Earth.
It goes all the way up the mountain.
Yeah.
And it's dead straight. They did a good job. Wow. 5,500 miles.
Yeah.
Does this already exist? Is this already done? I'm acting... this is so new to me. I'm acting like this is a project. Like, I'm getting stressed. Like, this is a project that's just getting started. We got to get on this. We got to dig this 20-foot border. But
This border's been around a long time, and yeah, it's constantly maintained.
if this exists already, which I think it does, it's probably pretty visually amazing. It's like a feat. My God.
Many smugglers use this line to cross, which is why we had to cut a swath through so we could see it happen. But it's not safe, okay? Being out in those wilderness forests, you can fall and break a limb, and nobody will find you, and a bear will eat you. So it's untamed wilderness. Don't do it.
With the exception of the rare New England town that predates national borders or the odd airport that needed expanding, this space is the no-touching zone between the countries, and they're super serious about keeping it clear. It matters not if the no-touching zone runs through hundreds of miles of virtually uninhabited Alaskan Yukon wilderness.
I mean, how far is the Great Wall of China? Great Wall. I need some context here. Length. 13,000 miles. We're a little under halfway as long as the Great Wall of China. Now, we're not building a wall, thank goodness. That's totally unnecessary for America and Canada. We're just digging like a visual kind of representation of a border. But still, this is not a small amount of distance we're talking about here.
Those border trees will not stand, which might make you think this...
Oh no, we're gonna cut down those little trees?
Well, we cut down the big trees to make the line, so yeah, the little trees will have to be sacrificed.
Alaskan Yukon wilderness, those border trees...
Because they're in the... Oh, how unlucky for these little trees being right smack in the border
That's what they get.
of all things, and they're gonna get just macheted away, chopped away. Sorry, I guess that's how it goes.
will not stand. Which might make you think this must be the longest, straightest, deforested place in the world. But
Yes.
it isn't. Deforested, yes, but straight, not at all. Sure, it looks straight on a
close.
map, and the
It does look straight. Wow. Yeah, this is pretty amazing. Like, this is like a modern marvel. I am amazed.
Well, yeah, the line looks straight on a map, and the Earth looks flat when you're standing somewhere. That doesn't mean these things are true.
Still, that this is a thing.
treaties establishing the line say it's straight, but in the real world, the official border is 900 lines that zigzag from the horizontal by as
Now, just to add a little thought to that, we think of the Earth as this really jagged, spherical thing, but if you were to shrink the Earth down to the size of a golf ball, it would be smoother than a golf ball.
much.
I mean, that's pretty good. Come on. Like, we're nitpicking here.
It would also collapse into a black hole.
We're talking about a 5,000 mile patch of land that we're 20 feet wide that we're clearing. It can be a little jagged. Like, come on. I'm fine with this.
You can make a black hole out of literally anything. Like, if you take enough... like you can take an orange and squish it down just small enough, it will become a tiny, tiny black hole. But you can also take enough hydrogen, for example, in a big enough space. If you have enough hydrogen, no matter how big it is, if it's enough, it will collapse into a black hole. So black holes can just happen. But that has nothing to do with this video. Sorry to nerd out like that.
Several hundred feet.
They
How
did a
this
good
happen?
job.
Well, imagine you're back in North America in the 1800s. The 49th parallel, one of those horizontal lines you see on the globe, has just been set as the national boundary. And it's your
Oh.
job to make it real. You are handed a compass.
So is that how it's determined? The 49th parallel?
That was how the agreement was made, yeah.
That's how they determined the border. That's very interesting. I guess that's still true to this day?
Yeah, mostly. I mean, there are a few parts where it juts out, like southern Ontario, and that's mostly because of the lakes.
I'm actually not even sure how far back. Well, actually, he kind of just said, right? How far back this all even began being a thing.
In North America in the 1800s, the 49th parallel, one of those horizontal lines you see on the globe, has just been set as the national boundary, and it's your job to make it real. You are handed a compass and a ball of string and told to carefully mark off the next 2/3 of a continent.
Right. The poor schmuck who got stuck with this project. Probably. I hope this was just his job for the rest of his life, and he got paid well, and was very passionate about border building or something. I hope the best for whoever got stuck with this.
I hope it was more than just one person. Like, honestly, that requires a team.
Mind that uncharted wilderness in your way. Just keep the line straight. Yeah, good luck with that.
Yeah.
The men who surveyed the land did the best they could and built over 900 monuments. They're in about as straight a line as you could expect a pre-GPS civilization to make, but it's not the kind of spherical planar intersection that would bring a mathematician joy.
So, yeah, no, this is amazing. And it's started 200 years ago or something. Yeah, that's amazing. They did a good job. Like, it's cool that they put little monuments down, because this was a feat.
Well, okay, if you've ever played Minecraft and gone over 1,000 blocks in any direction, you know that it's not easy to stay in a straight line. You're going to have some deviance here and there, and it's important to put, like, pillar markers so you can see, okay, I started there, and I've gone in mostly a straight line to get here. Now, I gotta keep going. It's mostly a straight line there. Can I see the marker beyond? No, but let's just trust and believe that I'm still going in a straight line.
Nonetheless, these monuments define the border, and the no-touching zone plays connect the dots with them. Oh, okay. And while there are about 900 markers along this section of the border, there are about 8,000 in total that define the shape of the nations.
Oh
Despite
my gosh.
this massive project, Canada and the United States still have disputed territory. There's a series of islands in the Atlantic that the United States claims are part of Maine, and Canada claims are part of New Brunswick. Canada, assuming the islands are hers, built a lighthouse on one of them, and the United States, assuming the islands are hers, pretends the lighthouse doesn't exist.
That's funny. I guess, Canada kind of got to the island first, or at least built the lighthouse. That's kind of like the ultimate this is ours, right? They got the lighthouse there, and we don't have anything built there.
That's what I believe is our lighthouse, our land, but hey, y'all can come visit, because that's fine. I mean, think of our disputed islands with Greenland, where, we've been placing things on the island to say, it's our island, like, leave a bottle of maple syrup here, and then they take away the bottle of maple syrup, and they leave something from their culture, and then we take away the thing from their culture, we leave something from our culture, and that's how we are fighting a war over this rocky island.
Anyway, that's just not worth fighting about, Can't we just share this island as, like, a national show of, like, kindness to each other, towards each other?
Yeah, it's kind of like that neighbor you've got who has a tree whose branches go over your property line. Sometimes you might be like, I don't like these branches, I need to trim them, and your neighbor's gonna be like, hey, that's my tree, don't you trim it. But at the end of the day, nobody's calling the cops.
It's not a huge problem, as the argument is mostly over tourists who want to see puffins and fishermen who want to catch lobsters, but let's hope the disagreement gets resolved before someone finds oil under that lighthouse. Even the non-disputed territory has a few notably weird spots, such as this tick of the border upward into Canada. Zoom in and it gets stranger, as the border isn't over solid land, but
it's like over a little lake, but it's not even perfectly shaped around the lake.
Runs through a lake to cut off a bit of Canada before diving back down to the US. This spot is home to about 100 Americans and is a perfect example of how border irregularities are born.
It's kind of shaped around this plot, this tiny little plot of 100 individuals. Is this a little town?
Yeah, it's the lighthouse situation, right?
living here?
In 1783, when the victorious Americans were negotiating with the British, who controlled what would one day be Canada, they needed a map, and this map was the best available at the time. While the East Coast looks pretty good,
Okay.
the wester it goes, the sparser it gets. Under negotiation was the edge of what would one day be Minnesota and Manitoba, but unfortunately that area was hidden underneath an inset on the map, so the Americans and the British were bordering blind. Seriously. They guessed the border should start from the northwestern part of this lake and go in a horizontal line until it crossed the Mississippi somewhere. But somewhere turned out to be nowhere, as the mighty Mississippi stopped short of that line, which left the border vague until 35 years later, when a second round of negotiations established the aforementioned 49th parallel.
I mean, we're talking about using maps from hundreds of years ago. I still think they did a good job determining all this and trying to make it straight and fair, and
It gives us both equal access to that lake, so good job, except that northern town, getting to visit your family south of the lake, you have to cross two borders. That's just kind of funny.
yeah, I mean, the fact that all this was done hundreds of years ago, it's like the biggest, most unexpected historical landmark that I've never heard of. No American I know knows of this. I would say 99% of Americans are not aware of this story.
You know, most Canadians aren't aware of it either. I've only recognized it before because I'm a nerd that likes to learn things, and I even forgot.
The Canadian-American border, this interesting gap between it that's built. People don't know about this. They don't. I gotta spread the word. There's a border. We built it. It's amazing. Please, everyone. They all just tell me to shut up. I'd be okay. I'd be fine with it.
But there was still a problem, as the lake mentioned earlier was both higher and less circular than first thought, putting its northwesterly point here, so the existing border had to jump up to meet it and then drop straight down to the 49th, awkwardly cutting off a bit of Canada before heading west to the remainder of the continent. And it turns out you can't just draw a straight-ish line for hundreds of miles without causing a few more problems. One of which was luckily spotted in advance, Vancouver Island, which the 49th would have sliced through, but both sides agreed that would be dumb, so the border swoops around the island. However,
Yeah.
Good.
There's gotta be lots of stuff like this. But it is nice that we can mutually agree that it doesn't make sense to slice off a body of land like this that's surrounded by water. You're making people trapped on the south side Americans, and technically not Canadians, even though it's connected to Canada. Yeah.
Yeah, that would make a very different history for what has happened with Victoria Island and what will happen with Victoria Island. The old-growth forests, I hope that we save them.
Yeah. Doesn't make sense. Glad it kind of makes sense this way.
However, next door to Vancouver Island is Point Roberts, which went unnoticed, and thus today the border blithely cuts across. It's a nice little town home to over 1,000 Americans, but has only a primary school, so its older kids have to cross international borders 4 times a day to go to school in their own state.
What?
Yes, very true. They have to go all the way around. It's ridiculous. There should be a ferry.
So this is exactly that scenario. And this exists. They didn't bother to try to change this. There is a little plot of America on the southern side of kind of this body of land sticking out.
Yeah.
I don't know if technically that's a peninsula. Anyway.
Across Vancouver Island is Point Roberts, which went unnoticed,
Point Roberts.
and thus today the border blithely cuts across. It's a nice little town home to over 1,000.
Look at this little town. 1,000 people, Americans, living here. And they gotta travel through Canada. They have one school there. It'd be fascinating to do a case study on this town. See the people of this town. And they gotta travel into Canada and back down again
I wonder if he does that. I don't think so.
to get to high school. That'll build some character. Go on a little hike through another country to
I'm pretty sure there's a bus, Tyler.
get to school.
1,000 Americans, but has only a primary school, so its older kids have to cross international borders 4 times a day to go to school in their own state. In a pleasing symmetry, the East Coast has the exact opposite situation with a Canadian island whose only land route is a bridge from the United States. And these two aren't the only places where each country contains a bit of the other. There are several more, easily spotted in satellite.
Yeah, whenever you get this shape with the land going up or straight south or straight north with a perfectly straight line, that's going from east to west, you're going to chop parts of each other's nation off.
Yeah, it's that easy for the two nations to say, like, we'll just make a border here, whatever.
It's kind of funny, honestly, as long as it doesn't cause any, like, actual problems or disagreements.
Oh, actually, it did cause a lot of problems during lockdown 2020, absolutely, because there were no border crossings allowed.
It's honestly just kind of interesting.
Photos by the no touching zone, regardless of if the land in question
Wait, you can see the no touching
or
zone.
easily spotted in satellite photos by the no touching.
That's amazing.
Yes.
Satellite images like this, you can see the no touching zone on satellite images. It's that vibrant, that prominent. That's amazing.
Zone, regardless of if the land in question is just an uninhabited strip in the middle of a lake in the middle of nowhere, the border between these sister nations must remain clearly marked.
Wow.
And nothing mentioned about the Canada-Alaska border. Huh, very interesting. That would be the one that goes through a mountain, if I'm not mistaken. Well, hey, I am surprised that did not cover everything. Like, it didn't even mention Restigouche Road, which is the road that I was referring to at the beginning of the video. Well, I'm sure he's about to say a bunch of this stuff, but I want to say it first. So thank you for joining me on this video. I hope you learned a lot. I hope you were entertained. I hope you liked the video. And if you did like it, please like the video. It costs you nothing and does a lot for me. And if you're watching and haven't already subscribed, please subscribe. Turn on that little bell. It will make sure that you get notified whenever I release a new video, which I'm trying to do at a rapid pace to entertain and amuse and educate as much as possible. Let's see what he says.
That was fascinating. That was by CGP Gray. He makes great videos. I definitely give that a like. That was very interesting.
Look how easy it is to like a video. He just clicks it and it's liked.
Again, this is like the most substantial modern, physical modern marvel. It's like the ninth wonder of the world or something. That this is just a huge undertaking that it exists right now and has for hundreds of years. Go figure. I just never knew about, and that Americans definitely don't know this. I feel like if I know, I'm a pretty good representation of, like, on average what an American is made aware of, because I don't seek out a ton of knowledge. I don't stop knowledge from getting to me. I just kind of, if it's famous enough to get to me, it's well known. And I've never heard of this. So this was incredible to learn about. Do Canadians know about this?
Well, as an average Canadian nerd, yes, I am fully aware of it, and I love it, and I think it's great, and one day I would love to try and hike along the Canadian edge of that line.
Are they well aware of this? I'd like to know that, because is it just like an American thing that we don't know about this no-touch zone, if we're calling it that?
Well, that's a reference to a TV show that doesn't appear on TV anymore, because I know that's a dying or dead medium. Is that no touching?
Very interesting. And I think that one of the reasons I'm so shocked and in awe is because we're talking about something that is in America. You know, it's the border. It's touching America. It's right here where I live, and yet I'm unaware of it. It's kind of shocking. Anyway, probably just is a good reminder that we don't know anything. There's so much right under our noses that we don't know. I don't want to get too philosophical here.
Hey, well, you know, it's very true. The more I learn, the more I learn that I know nothing.
Or maybe I do. No. Okay. Okay. But if you enjoyed this video, if you enjoyed this reaction, feel free to give it a like or leave a comment.
Do it.
And if you're interested in more content like this, more videos
Or
like this. About Canada and Canadian culture, fun Canadian things,
America
learning.
and
It's all
Americans.
great. Feel free to subscribe to the channel for more. And until then, thanks for watching, and see you next time.
And
What's
thank
going on?
you very much. Well, thank you very much for joining me on this ride. Once again, you've been great, you've been awesome, and just keep being awesome. Bye.
Science, spirit, life. No. Nerd Pope King.